Yeah, the question of language and why there's a perception out there by a number of folks that Latinos aren't learning English quickly enough to be able to integrate with their neighbors and so forth. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the fact is all immigrant groups that have come to this country went through a period of transition, you know, to reach outside their enclave, if you will. And I think in places like Los Angeles and Miami and here in DC, you know, we have those enclave neighborhoods where you can get a job, buy a house, and be economically quite successful without speaking a lick of English. However, I do think, and this is something we believe in LEDC, and I think most immigrant groups believe in, we have an obligation to learn the language, you know, of the dominant majority. The language of the dominant majority right now is English, and so all immigrants have an obligation. Part of the problem with people not learning English is if you've ever attempted to get somebody enrolled in an English as a second language class, you will realize that those programs fill up, you know, immediately. There are people that wait outside of a place here, Carlos Rosario, to sign up for their classes. There are people that wait outside local public schools to sign up for them. We are not providing enough classes, and that's actually in the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Bill, to do more to help Latinos learn English. This notion of people who came as Italians, let's say, you know, decades ago, you know, having an issue with Latinos not speaking Spanish. You know, I would love to know how long it took their ancestors to learn, you know, English when they first came. You know, the fact of the matter is, again, it's going back to, it's being able to walk in the shoes of an immigrant person and realizing that the time it takes to adjust fully. I guess some people would argue, why is it, I bet you in LA and Miami, and to some extent here, you know, why is it people have been here 30, 40, 50 years and still have marginal English? I think what you're seeing in this country is that English-speaking majority is changing. I mean, let's be real here. There may be a time when the dominant language of this country is not English. My pushback to folks who have an issue with Latinos not learning English is, what are you doing to learn some Spanish? Because the fact of the matter is we're becoming a multilingual society. We're becoming more and more like Europe. A German friend in my neighborhood was telling me that all Germans have to learn English and French in the schools. It's required. I think we need to start looking at making Spanish a requirement in the schools. I think that would be a very progressive thing to do. In Miami, it was already that way when I went to school in Miami. I think we need to meet them halfway. And I think eventually probably the dominant language is going to be something like Spanglish, which I know the teachers are going to have a hell of a time with that. I would argue that on the language issue, the market is showing, you know, that the people who speak Spanish, who are bilingual, who are more multicultural, are more sought after in the corporate world, in the government sector, even rabbis and pastors and you name it. The ones that are multicultural and able to adapt to other cultures are more successful. So I think, you know, commerce is moving us in that direction of globalization. So you have to be willing to look at that as well. And I think, you know, I have some nephews that were given an option to learn a foreign language and they chose French. And I said, the hell's the matter with you? And it's not that I have anything wrong with French. I just think, you think economically. Think here about what your opportunities are going to be, you know, after high school, college, you know, and your career. You know, if you're going to learn French, fine, but you better learn Spanish too. It's just the reality.